Okay, well let's get started, and other people I'm sure will join us as we go along. So first of all, hi, I'm John Ovens. Thanks for attending today's webinar, basically titled "What's Stopping You?" BYOB. In other words, build your own business. Webinar will be a total of 30 minutes. Probably my talking for 18 to 20, and the balance will be any questions you might have. And if you do have questions, please submit them in the chat box on Zoom. So let's go forward. First of all, the pandemic, and a lot of people were hesitant to make changes when it comes to their career or their future. Although they know their jobs are at risk, layoffs hit early in the pandemic, and as businesses adjust to changing environments, more layoffs are potentially likely in the next few months. So instead of being caught and having to react, there are so many options to be proactive to create the life you want. And it's actually a great time to build your own business. So before we begin, let's state the obvious. We don't do this many times in our lives. It's a huge commitment. Skydiving is scary, and so is this situation. And I don't take my role lightly. I feel honored to be able to help people learn about building their own business, and in particular, a franchise business. So it's very important to find the right franchise if you decide to go in that direction. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I have helped many individuals become entrepreneurs. And as you can see from my funny accent, I originate from across the water. I've had experience in developing and leading both domestic and international businesses. I started 2 franchise businesses in Europe. I've opened up franchise businesses in South America. I've worked for major corporations, including Kimberly-Clark, TNT Express Worldwide, which is now FedEx, and have multiple assignments globally, positions in Europe, London, the Middle East, lived in the Middle East, North and Central, and South America. So I have a lot of experience. And in 2002, moved to Atlanta, purchased a specialized transportation company, along with 30 aircraft, and we increased our size 4-fold in 5 years. So when we sold that business, I decided to go back into consulting, and in particular in franchising, because I really enjoy it. I'm a father of 3 sons, pilot, and was single multi-engine captain, mission pilot, squadron commander in the United States Air Force Auxiliary. So moving on from there, what is franchising? Well, it's a proven, validated business model with established systems, operations, and processes based on actual operating results. You're basically, if you purchase a franchise, you're buying an asset along with a partnership. The franchisor is the creator and the provider of an intangible asset. They created the brand, the business plan, and know how to run the business. So basically, the road is set for you to follow. More about that in a little bit. So let's look at basic stats. I'm sure some of you have seen these numbers, but this franchising creates 2.1 trillion in economic output for the US economy. There are over 800,000 franchise establishments in the United States and produces 18 million jobs. And there are over 3,000 franchise brands. Pretty significant. So let's look at franchise models. The question here is really time versus money. How much do you want to put into your business? Number one, absentee ownership. That requires more dollars, of course, because you're going to hire a general manager, an assistant manager, and employees. You show up every now and then to see how it's going. Then we have semi-absentee. I have a number of clients right now in corporate America that are interested in semi-absentee. Why? They want to build their future and control their destiny. So they're looking at, purchasing businesses where they can manage them as a general manager and have an assistant manager as their basic eyes and ears. And then we then have the executive ownership. You do everything, head cook and bottle washer. But on that basis, you get to know the business really from the ground up. That's one advantage of being an executive owner. But there are, as you can see, a number of options open to you. So what is the value of being a franchise owner? Well, there are a number. First of all, it is your business. It's Joe Smo doing business as XYZ franchise. You have that leadership. It is your business, and you're very much in a partnership. Franchising today is not about just granting franchises. It's about a partnership. So you have that ability to lead a business where it's your business and you're in absolute control. I have an example. A client of mine that I placed 2 years ago, I spoke to him just 2 weeks ago, and he said, I was a senior VP in corporate America. Each year I'd get a small raise or maybe no raise at all. I was told I was doing great. But, a couple of months ago, I decided to give myself a raise. John, I gave myself a 25% increase. I'm in control. So that's the first aspect. Then we have business intelligence. Being part of a franchise organization, you've got the support behind you. And when things are moving, you're going to hear about it. And they have that desire to stay out because this is a partnership. And they have to make sure that their franchise owners are happy with what they're doing for you. And then we have training and ongoing support, not only for you as the franchise owner, but also for your staff. And then there's ongoing development. It is the interest of the franchisor to continue to develop the brand. If they don't develop the brand, of course, they're going to go backwards. And as a direct result of that, their franchise holders are going to look elsewhere. So it's very important for the franchisor to move forward and continue to develop the brand. And then, of course, we have the brand and the marketing, which they have the expertise to market the brand for you. And again, this is a partnership. And being a partnership, generally franchisees get together on a regular basis and form groups. And they interface with the franchisor. And that's how things develop. The next point, technology. Yes, you can develop your own technology, but when you're part of a larger organization, inevitably, you're going to get the benefits of the advancement in technology, and you're going to be at the forefront in that aspect. And the final point here is the other franchisees. I touched on many of them meet together on a regular basis to discuss issues that they have, but they're always there to help. And in many cases, they'll help in terms of helping you with your business. For example, if you have clients outside your immediate area, in another area, then other franchisees can help you in that regard. Then we have fear. And that's something that I hear a lot when talking to my clients. It's normal and it's not always a bad thing. Learning about brands and models helps move you forward. And what I find in the early days from talking to my clients is they have very little knowledge of what's out there. After a month or so, they not only gain a lot of knowledge, but they feel a lot more comfortable with the concept of franchising, recognizing that there's a process that franchisors go through in terms of giving you the understanding of the marketing. Also, there's the franchise disclosure document. And as you may already know, that a franchise disclosure document, or FDD, has to be produced annually by state and registered with the state for the franchisor to be able to negotiate franchises within that area. And in that FDD, you have financial information on the company itself and also on the performance of their franchisees. After you've got the FDD, at some point, you're going to start validation calls, and you will talk to other franchisees. So you're going to get a good read on the good, the bad, and the indifferent. So that knowledge helps you overcome fear, and they continue to grow. And this is not a situation where the franchisor is going to sell you on a particular brand. They're going to want to make sure they've got a partner. That's a very important aspect in everything they do, because if they get the wrong people, it's going to reflect bad on them. Okay, so the time is now. It's more viable than ever. The timeline of business development complements the timeline for economic recovery. We as an organization are growing. We had a great year last year, and this year we're starting off, and things are moving forward very rapidly. Many industries and businesses are not affected by the pandemic, and instead are booming. And some of those are in food, and I'll get to that in a minute. So there's pent-up demand for many businesses after being closed or having restrictions, which have had an impact. So another important factor is real estate availability is very strong right now, allowing for lower lease rates and better locations, because businesses have disappeared and landlords are much more flexible today on negotiating lease. And curbside availability will give restaurants greater flexibility. In fact, a number of food franchises in our portfolio have seen significant growth in 2020 over 2019, because not only have had curbside, they've had takeout, and that has shown significant growth for them. And they're recession-proof businesses such as cleaning, technology, healthcare, repair services, and automotive are strong. And a strong stock market creates investment opportunities for many. So let's look at the industries that are currently doing well. Automotive. The average age of vehicles on the road in the United States today is 12 years. It's up from 11.5 years. People are keeping their vehicles longer. The technology is significantly better. So the automotive franchises are doing very well. Consulting. That is a number of areas. We have a very large portfolio of franchises. That's another area that is doing very well at the moment. And then, of course, home improvements. There's various different categories in this area for home improvement. People are spending money on improving their homes. Clean eating. That's one of those areas that's growing very rapidly. And there's a great deal of interest in clean eating at the moment. And, smaller units perhaps, but, the desire to open up facilities that will do well in a clean eating environment. Digital marketing, an area that is growing rapidly and will continue to do so. Repair services in the home and businesses, etc. And then cleaning. Cleaning never goes away. And the final one here, fitness. Now, whilst we've seen big box fitness operations slow down, the smaller boutique style fitness operations are showing growth. And the number we have in our portfolio that are doing well right now, it's really quite surprising. A lot of them are, providing individual type of training and fitness for their customers. Anyway, it's something to consider. So there are industries doing well and will continue to do well, particularly as we move out of the pandemic. So let's look at the process. This is the process that we go through, and I go through in particular when I'm talking to a client. First of all, I send them a confidential questionnaire. That is a questionnaire that really covers geographical areas, industries they might be interested in, and obviously their financial wherewithal and what they would like to invest. Then I schedule with them a consultation. And during that consultation, we come up with industries of interest. And from there, industries of interest, I prepare a business model. And that business model really encompasses what we've discussed. And this becomes very much a joint venture. It's not a case of my persuading them to go in one direction. We don't do that. We actually do not do that. My role in the early days is to present opportunities to my clients and then work with them. And in fact, as we move forward through the process, I become much more of a sounding board as we go through it. So anyway, the next step is I check out franchises that might be available in the areas that they have interest. And we then have a brand presentation, which will consist of 45 minutes or so. I present the brands to them. I give them the numbers of cost of the franchise, what's required, and so on and so forth. I then ask them to go away, look at those brands for a few days. We circle back, and they tell me what they'd like to talk to. And then I set up for them conference calls with the franchisors. Now, this is an introductory call. There is absolutely no commitment whatsoever. It's a case of meeting on a Zoom call or even on the telephone with the franchisor. As I said earlier on, franchising is about partnerships. You want to make sure it's something you like to hear and like to be with, and they want to do the same thing. Now, if you like what you hear, you'll schedule additional calls. And we will follow up straight afterwards, because if you don't like what you've heard, then we'll start over. But otherwise, we would have regular weekly meetings to go over your findings. And at some stage, you could say after a few weeks, no, this is not for me. I want to do something else. What's important to me is building a reputation and helping you go through the process. As I said earlier on, I moved from introducing the franchises to you to sounding board. I do not try and persuade you to go in one direction or another. It's your decision. I will play devil's advocate from time to time. The whole process could take a number of months. That will not cost you any more than 4 hours of initial investment in your time. No, you do not pay a penny until you get to a point where you decide you want to invest. If you don't want to invest, you can walk away from it. It's as simple as that. So, looking at financing, there are a number of options here. Obviously, cash is the first. Then, of course, we have loans that are secured, unsecured. Then we have the Small Business Administration loans that are out there right now. And in fact, the government between now and September, on all loans that are granted, they will provide or pay the principal and the interest through September. Then the next one is ROBS. ROBS is really where if you have a 401k or an IRA, you can actually transfer that into, let's say, a 401k in your business. So basically, and there's no penalty to do that. A lot of clients are doing that right now. So basically, the 401k would be your 401k investing in your business. So it will be Joe Blow doing business as XYZ, and they would have that ownership. So that's a very interesting concept. Then, of course, there's collateralized lines that you can, offset against property that you have. And then there's leasing. Many franchisors that are looking to have equipment involved will lease those equipment, vehicles, or whatever it might be, which reduces your costs. And finally, there are grants that might come on a state basis or a city basis or even on a national basis. So those are the options from a financing perspective. So last few points here. First of all, from a consultant's perspective, what do you want to look for? Determine the level of franchise experience that your consultant has. This is not, as I've said repeatedly, a sales process. Determine the reputation of your consultant. The right one will never rush you. And proven results. You don't want a consultant that's simply going to tell you what you want to hear. So going back to myself again, over 30 years of leading domestic and international businesses in the US and overseas, extensive experience in operating multi-locations businesses globally, and for over 13 years have helped individuals find alternative business opportunities to corporate employment. And they become entrepreneurs and realize their dreams of owning their own business. And my services are no cost to you. So here's my contact information, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay. If you're going to ask any questions, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Okay, we got some questions in the chat. First question, do some franchises only offer one ownership model, meaning can only be an executive owner but not semi-absentee? Yes. And there are a number like that. And what we do is we go through the process, we identify if the client wants an executive ownership style or wants a semi-absentee type of franchise. If they're only interested in semi-absentee, that is our focus. But if they prefer to be 100% owner, that's fine. And we won't present a business that is executive owner only, if they really are looking for a semi-absentee business. So that's the first question. Do you help determine how much financing you can qualify, or do you have a tool or financing calculator I can use to determine this? Well, basically, one of the important ingredients is to find out what the net worth is. And then from there, if the net worth is satisfactory, then we will estimate what we think the financing could be. But at a very early stage, I recommend introducing them to one of my colleagues who's an expert in the field, and that colleague will give them specific information on what they can achieve with their current financial status. But we can do that at a pretty early stage. But in many instances, I find that clients have an idea of what they want to invest up front. Are you seeing people still buying brick and mortar franchise or more virtual businesses? Very good question. And the answer to that actually is yes and no. First of all, as I touched on earlier on, there's a lot of real estate out there from businesses that have disappeared, which provides brick and mortar opportunities. The downside with going for a new brick and mortar franchise is the time it takes to get up and running. So a virtual business, you can get up and running in a matter of a month or so, following going through the initial cycle and signing on the dotted line. But with a brick and mortar, you've got to not only get the planning permission, you've got to find the facility. The franchisor will typically help you find the right location, but it does take longer. However, as I said already, today there are a lot of facilities out there that could work. In terms of next question, what type of consulting do you prefer or recommend? Well, that depends on the individual. There are a lot of different type of franchises that are on a consulting basis, whether it's cost control, whether it's helping businesses turn around, or whether it's in information technology. There's a number of them, and I do not necessarily recommend. I discuss them with the client, and we agree that that might be a particular franchise that they have an interest in. As I said before, we do not sell. I mean, I will not try and persuade a client of mine to go with a particular brand. However, if I can see some negatives, I will point that out to the client. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left before we get to the bottom of the hour. Okay, well, if you have any additional questions or you'd like to have a discussion, please shoot me a text. You have my contact information here, and my text of 470-431-4235, or my phone 770-516-2184. You also have my LinkedIn there and my email address.